So Cam Newton had a WNBA related take that made some waves the other day. It was on his podcast, and basically he said that the WNBA is going to surpass MLB in 20 years. I've actually positioned whether women's basketball can overtake men's basketball, but I didn't really compare it to other sports. And of course, the death of Major League Baseball and baseball in general has been a sports talk radio point for years now. Trust me, I've had plenty of those conversations on the air. And I'll give you my thoughts about baseball in general coming up in just a second. And obviously, what I think of the WNBA and its potential, in women's basketball and its potential since the Caitlin Clark effect, followed by all the great players playing in college right now, and the explosive growth of the league, and now the fact that women's college basketball, I think, just has more star power than men's college basketball. But comparing it to baseball specifically, Cam, of course, former NFL player turned, I guess, podcaster. He really kind of beat down baseball, I think, more than propping up the WNBA and making the take. But let me play you a few portions of it, and I'll link the full show in the description. But this was one section.
It's like, who's really paying attention to baseball? Especially paying attention to baseball in the regular season.
Somebody.
Can I make a hot take?
What's up?
I think baseball will be surpassed by WNBA in 20 years.
I 100% agree.
I do not approve this message.
I 100% agree.
You don't think that the WNBA will surpass?
No. I just feel like baseball has been so big and is so international now too, that we just thinking about just in America, but they are a lot of people viewing it in other places.
The issue with the WNBA is not exposure, but it is the number one issue. It's exposure, but it's also understanding they play basketball globally too.
That is true.
And understanding if they give the same amount of exposure, and I said that wrong, but y'all just bear with me.
They have the same eyes that the baseball that MLB have with the WNBA is definitely different.
And if the superstar, they're in dire need of superstars. That's what makes Angel Reese so like the WNBA needs stars. But on the court and off the court.
I do think MLB will lean more into that though. Like right now, you don't see all this social media, this person, this is household name, this person.
So that was, a portion of it. And then they clipped out another thing for social media that was more baseball centric. But let me play that for you real quick now too, to give you some context.
Baseball is like I hate to say a dying sport. I think baseball will be surpassed by WNBA in 20 years. Baseball ain't even being played by Americans anymore.
Bro, bring back steroids, bro. Bring back steroids for baseball, bro. I'm telling you, to change everything. No one can't do it, but I'm telling you, that was when they was hitting them things out the park, bro. It's different, bro.
That's what it is.
Yes, bro. I used to
like some judges, and they still hitting out the park.
Yeah, but the majority of play to my point, I don't know about that bring back steroids.
Hey, hold on. We did not approve this message.
Hey, I'm Cam Newton, and I do not approve that message.
Couple things. Let me start with the WNBA portion. I don't think he did a good job articulating the point. One, I get the exposure thing, saying like as more people get exposed to it, as you get more exposure internationally, the game will grow. Sure. I mean, that's true. But, they're in dire need of superstars. I think one of the reasons that the WNBA is starting to thrive is they have superstars and they've got a pipeline of superstars coming. He also cited Angel Reese as the superstar. And don't get me wrong, I include Angel Reese in a group of stars, but this starts and ends with Caitlin Clark. Not to start a whole thing there, but that's the impetus for the growth of the WNBA and women's basketball as a whole was the superstar. And now you have seen more superstars emerge. Angel Reese certainly amongst them. Asia Wilson has become a star in the league. Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, Hannah Hidalgo, so on and so forth. There will be more. Nafisa Collier became a bigger name this year. Enrique Agumbawale became a bigger name this year. There are now more names people can rattle off, and soon more and more will become household names. Sabrina Ionescu, obviously, is another one with the shoe going over to Unrivaled. So I just didn't really understand his point there necessarily. And then the baseball thing, I've heard done to death, saying it's a dying sport. That's been done to death, to the point where you're looking at a sport that is regional, a sport that is strong regionally. It supports regional networks. The Yankees are on a regional sports network, right? Like they have their own network in New York. Same as the Mets. You see that all over the place because they can sell a lot of advertising too, 162 games, which means a lot of revenue can come into the ballpark, over half of that. So I think baseball does better than people realize just because it's not nationally all the time a marquee thing. I thought people really seemed to enjoy the MLB playoffs last year. So I just think the idea, and trust me, I used to be one of the ones who was sort of leading this charge because I'm not a big baseball guy myself. I didn't grow up playing it. My dad wasn't a big fan. It's too slow for me in general. Boring, I guess is the word I would use. But I'm also fair, and it's not going anywhere. And when you see like something like the World Baseball Classic and how, big that was and how big it is in Japan and in the Caribbean and stuff like that, DR and all those places, it's hard to just say baseball's a dying sport, though younger kids aren't picking it up to the same degree. So somewhere in between, right? Like it's not America's pastime anymore, and it's certainly not the most popular sport. So I feel like I could prop up the WNBA without saying baseball is dying. I don't want to put a cap on how popular the WNBA and women's basketball can become. One thing, because it's what I'm covering, but two things, because I would have told you were nuts to even say it would be at the level it's at now a year and a half ago. So who knows what the ceiling actually is. It makes for interesting talking points and debates. And, in these slower times, we can talk about Bronny James against Caitlin Clark one-on-one, and that can fill a whole segment. So Cam's hot take got a bunch of attention. Figured I'd share it here. I just wish he had done a little bit of a better job making his argument, because that was my biggest issue with it. Is the take itself is cool. Like, the WNBA will surpass MLB. The actual substance of the take didn't really do much for me.